I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. So we have with us today a friend of mine, Diana Lynn, who is single and also has a lot of really good perspective on the singles world. How are you doing, Diana?
Great. How are you, Ari?
Good, thanks. So why don't we jump in? Tell us a little bit about yourself, um, as much as you'd like or as little as you'd like, and then let's talk a little bit.
Sure. Well, I was married for 17 years, and that marriage was an abusive marriage. So eventually we got divorced after 2 kids, and now I've been single for 10 years, or in the single world for 10 years, not necessarily wanting to date right away. I did try that, but realized that I had a lot of healing that I had to do before I really went back out into the dating world, and focused on that. Realized that a lot of women in particular, everybody, but women in particular, they do have a lot of healing from relationship healing before they're finding the mate of their choice. And so I work with women as a life coach. I work with women, helping them through various traumas, and really helping them create the life that they want to live with the partner they want to have.
Wonderful. So it sounds like you unfortunately came into this, but you had a little bit of weaponry prepared in order to get yourself going on the right path.
Yeah.
I just want to, before you continue, you said that you feel that possibly women have it harder. I'm not sure who has it harder, but I would agree that we have it differently. It seems to me that overall, men, when they get divorced, if they go off, they regress, almost like immaturity, rebellion. And women, if they go off, their issues seem to be more with like resentment and anger. Is that something that you would find to be a accurate statement?
Absolutely true. And in fact, science actually proves that mostly for men, almost like you said, they regress a little bit. And there's actually studies that do show that men go back to an age point where they last felt free. So if they got married young and divorced later, they might revert back to that younger age of 20, 21 or something. And so, yeah, it's actually interesting for that. And women, because they typically don't always have a way to fully express themselves within their relationship or their marriage, tend to revert to, like you said, anger and resentment, because they never have felt heard. And they're like, if he would have heard me, none of this would have happened. So you're absolutely correct on that.
Thank you. So there's logic to my imagination. Great.
Logic and studies. Yes. When the science actually backs it up, is kind of cool to see, the studies showing what we actually see out here. And, I see this, I work with women, I have worked with men, in the Jewish world. I also have worked with rabbis, just because there's a sense of they can't speak to anybody because of their religious status. So it's interesting to see how people interact with the emotions that they have and the desires that they have, and trying to heal, but heal their mindset, heal the traumas that they felt, whether it's what I call big T or little T traumas. There's a lot of things that happen in marriage and previous relationships that we carry into the next, or can carry into the next one, until we start looking at ourselves and figuring out what's going on. What could I do better is always my question for myself.
So what are some of the tips and strategies to accomplish this?
The one thing I tell people is get happy. Just a lot of times what happens in relationships is that we come into a relationship not happy. So we're looking for our partner to fill some sort of void that we have. And that partner comes in not happy, also looking for a void to be felt, or to be filled. And so we rely on that person to fill those voids. And when those voids aren't filled, then we start blaming that person, when in reality, it's just two unhappy people still unhappy and wondering why the other person is not making them happy. So if we come to a relationship already satisfied with who we are as a person, where we're going, and bring in substance and find a partner that's willing to do the same and bringing in their own happiness, now you have two happy people willing to come together to support each other in their happiness. And that's an entirely different relationship. So I tell people,
step number one, be happy.
Be happy.
How does one get happy?
There's so many things that, especially in this society that we have, where we look at everything from a negative point of view. Every Monday is going to be awful. Doesn't matter what happens. It's Monday. It's going to be awful. Well, what if we changed our narrative on that? Today's Monday is going to be great. And we change our narrative and we start changing our environment around that. And when we change our environment, we change our mindset. We start attracting and bringing new things to our lives, and that's where our power is. And it starts by looking on the inside and looking in the mirror and saying, who is this person standing before me, and do I even like this person? Before you start going out trying to find someone else, you have to date yourself first.
Right. But I would think that in order to accomplish any of this, the person has to be in a reasonable position to be able to have the energy, will, or strength to do it, which would all rely on their mental position at the time. And if they're just not strong enough, I guess that's where a support system comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. There has to be a what I call a moment of self-awareness, where you realize there's something that's just not right yet, whatever that is. And I have several moments of awareness that help me say, okay, I need to start looking at me, coming out of the marriage I had, and start focusing on who I am versus just jumping out there into a new relationship. And so that you have to have that moment of awareness. And sometimes you can do that on your own. Sometimes you need somebody to say, it's you, buddy. It's you, or it's you, girlfriend. Take a look at you, and then support you through that. But it really has to start from an internal point of view.
Got it. Okay. So I think the next question that this would lead into is, what do you do if you're not in a healthy position, but you see a really great opportunity and you don't want to let it go? That this is the woman of your dreams. You're well aware enough to know that it would be a bad move to let her go, or vice versa. You're in a good position and this person has potential, but they're just not shaping up. So now, do you stay away? Do you get into the relationship and then all of a sudden work it as a therapy, like you're married? What are the options? Because I think that is something that a lot of people get stuck with, and we could really use some direction on how to handle a situation like that.
Definitely, this is when you always want to kind of get outside insight, because especially for women, we get emotionally connected, and a lot of times we approach relationships as, let me fix somebody, let me fix him, and then he'll be perfect. Men, I don't know how they approach that, to be honest with you. So if you got insight on that, please feel free to share. But, how do you approach it when you're in that position and your partner isn't? Are you communicating? Can you communicate with your partner what your intended goal is? So if the intended goal is marriage and your partner is not there yet, then can we communicate that? And then that person has to decide, based on that conversation, is this something worth waiting for? A lot of times that person is your one, but it's not the right timing, and that's okay. So there might be a point where you separate and then you come back. We hear these stories of people that met, years ago, and then they find each other again and they come back and now they have this blissful relationship. It was a timing issue. Sometimes it's a point where, you're willing to wait because you realize this is your one, and there might be growth for both of you in this relationship to deal with certain things. What I see a lot right now is narcissistic and codependent relationships. And the narcissism.
Since the beginning of time.
Yeah, since the beginning of time. They seem to have, I don't know if they've come more to the forefront, or if they're because of just the kind of the mental state of our society right now. They, where we're very self-focused. It's about me and what I can get and how I can get forward. that,
Well, it also could just be like, the transparency of the White House, not to get into politics, but with social media, we just see so much more. I mean, one thing I noticed when I got divorced, I'm remarried now, as you know, is that a person could be abusive within his marriage and the neighbors will look the other way, nobody else say a word. But once
mhm,
you're divorced, everybody talks about everything and they overbloat it, and they people just love to ruin reputations.
right.
So I think along the same lines, maybe you're seeing more of this just because there's more to see due to
Both. There's
social
more
media.
opportunity, right? There's more opportunity to see it, and you're absolutely right. People will look the other way until there's something to gossip about that makes them feel better about their own lives. That's generally
Right.
why we're gossiping about something when people gossip. Um, so, sometimes what happens, and I see this a lot, we have someone that's coming off of a bad relationship, but they need to fill that void. So they become codependent, relying on that other person. And that other person is basically just really almost self-centered in a can't call everybody a narcissist, but we all have narcissist tendencies because we're human. Um,
Right.
and so, what are we doing to correct that and fix that within ourselves, and being aware that, what, it's okay to be alone. And that's the other thing. I don't think a lot of people are okay being alone, because when they're alone, they have to face themselves and they're not ready for that mirror yet, and that is a very hard thing to face when you're not ready for it.
Well, agreed. Some people are not ready to be alone, and so then they'll end up in toxic relationships. But also, it's back to the support system. If somebody has a good support system, if they have love around them that they feel, then they can be alone because they know it's there. And if somebody doesn't have that, it's much more difficult to be alone because then you're truly alone, and it's a scary feeling.
Well, it's a scary feeling, but when you think about it, when we as individuals come home and we are walking into an empty house, the first thing that we do is usually flip on a TV, flip on something to fill the void, because we don't want to be alone with our own thoughts. And if we can get alone with our own thoughts, like I say, date yourself and ask yourself if you would want to date yourself. Date the personality that you are and see what that answer is. And I think a lot of times and this is just since the beginning of time, we kind of inflate our ego and when we're dating, and then we get someone close to us and we realize, oh, this is real, and they're going to see all the little idiosyncrasies that I have, and then it just becomes too real and a little bit too scary. So then we create our own reasons to separate from someone. Oh, I didn't realize his left ear is bigger than his right ear. I can't know if this is going to work now. We make up things
Right.
just to create a reason to not be with someone. And that ends up confirming our belief that every man is like this or every woman's like this. And we're on that cycle of, if we believe whatever we believe, we'll find in society. So if we believe all men are scum or believe all women are, horrible, then
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
self-fulfilling prophecy, yeah,
Right.
self-fulfilling prophecy will create that situation for ourselves.
Right. Well, listen, I mean, I always knew you were a smart person, but I got to be honest. I'm going to tell you here in public that this is a very fascinating conversation because not only am I realizing that you're highly, highly intelligent, more than I gave you credit for, I apologize, but you are very, very well spoken. You're
Oh,
you're
thank you.
able, yeah, you're very able to express things in a very concise way that are way more comprehensive than they first come across. And it's really worth listening to everything that you've said. And I really thank you for coming on.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the invite.
Of course. Um, I just want to end off by saying that if anybody is interested in Diana, as you guys know, in the description, I have the directions on how to go through me with the email, or the options down there are clear on how to see in a safe way if there's a match. Once again, Diana, thank you so, so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. You have a good day.